So you've been playing guitar for a minute and are ready to start a band or audition for one. Before you do, I'm gonna reveal 5 crucial mistakes new gigging guitar players make. And if you avoid these mistakes, you are gonna have more success, you're gonna be more sought after by bands and musicians, and you will have more fun in your music journey. Let's get it. The number one mistake beginner gigging guitar players make is wasting people's time. And I'm guilty of this, especially in my younger years. I used to show up to rehearsals late, like all the time. Until one day, a band member of mine took me aside and said I was being unprofessional by showing up late, even if it's rehearsal. And in that moment, everything clicked for me. Think about it. If you showed up late or no-showed your shift at your day job, you would get fired. So guys, treat this like a job. If you have a rehearsal, if you have a show, if you have a session, show up on time at the minimum. Even better, show up early and be ready to go. And in my opinion, this also applies when you're buying gear on the used market. So if you find a sweet pedal or a cool amp for a good deal on Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist and you arrange a time to pick up the item from that seller, show up on time, be respectful of that person's time because you're still being a professional musician, and there's nothing more unprofessional than someone who shows up late. By the way, my name's AJ. Welcome to the channel. Thank you for stopping by for another video. The second mistake gigging guitar players make is not being a team player. I always compare playing in a band like playing on a team. The most successful teams win because they have players that know the role and they play those roles very well, but they are also able to adapt and fill holes when needed. Same principle can apply for playing in a band. As guitar players, we secretly want to be the Michael Jordan of our band, but unfortunately, we're just not the Michael Jordan. We are Scottie Pippen at best, probably even closer to Dennis Rodman. Now, you can't argue the fact that that era of the Bulls would not have won so many championships without Pippen and Rodman supporting MJ, and that's what we have to be as guitar players supporting our band. Well, what does that mean for us in bands? Well, let's say your band is lacking in social media presence. Why don't you take lead on that? You become the social media guy. If you're not getting enough gigs, why don't you become the booking guy? Why don't you take lead on that? Reach out to venues, reach out to promoters, be that guy. Fill whatever hole needs to be filled. Get your mind out of the gutter. And being a team player can be as simple as if you have a show or if you have a gig and you've done loading all your gear because you've went digital and aren't playing with an amp, and you see your drummer with his 40 pieces of hardware, help your drummer out. I can't stress enough how important being a team player is for the gigging guitar player. It's gonna make you more successful as a guitarist and make you more successful in your band. The third mistake beginner gigging guitar players make is not knowing the material. And yes, this mostly applies to session players and hired guns. Early in my career, I had an opportunity to audition for a very prominent band in town. They sent me all the material that I needed to learn. I had literally all the tools I needed to succeed. All I had to do was learn the songs and practice performing the songs. And what did I do? Well, I did exactly what I did in college. I did not study for the test a week before. I studied the night before, and the result of this audition was exactly like a test in college. I didn't get the gig, and I looked like an idiot. So the lesson here, guys, is the job starts at home. It doesn't start at the audition, and it definitely does not start at the show. So please learn the material. And one quick tip about learning the songs, it's one thing to learn the songs sitting down, which is what 90% of us will probably do to learn the material, but it's another thing to practice standing up. So practice standing up, practice with your pedal board in front of you, practice doing your switches and your tap dancing. And yes, you don't get paid to practice for the show, but that's a whole nother video on its own. Actually, comment down below if you want to see a video about how much gigging guitar players make. The fourth mistake beginner gigging guitar players make is obsessing too much about gear. Man, I am so guilty of having gas, gear acquisition syndrome. I've had it my entire musical journey. I love gear as much as the next guy, and whenever a new piece of gear comes out, I want it. I think it's just human nature to want things. But the problem with obsessing over gear is that, and the problem that I've had with it, it takes up so much space and bandwidth in your mind and in your heart that it takes away from what you should be using it towards, which is being creative. And I always try to remind myself this whenever I'm doomlessly scrolling Facebook Marketplace or Reverb for whatever pedal or whatever new guitar that I happen to have seen on Instagram that I have to have at that moment, that I don't need it. And yes, it's easy for me to say all this because I have a wall of guitars, I have a bunch of amps, and God knows how many pedals. But even I have to be reminded that fuck the gear. We don't need another pedal. We need to write songs, and we have to get better at guitar and write better songs and be more creative. So guys, let's stop obsessing over gear, even though it's friggin' cool, and that's why we're all here, but we have to try our best. Whew. Glad I got that off my chest. I felt like that was a therapy session there. The fifth mistake beginner gigging guitar players make, and arguably the most important, is not being a good hang. Now, when you start playing shows, you're probably gonna drive miles and miles and miles, or kilometers and kilometers and kilometers to a dive bar where you're gonna get paid 50 bucks. So you're gonna spend a long time in a small space with a small group of people. And the most important thing people will look for is if you're cool. So what does that mean? Well, you got to be able to roll with the punches. And if you're new, you kind of have to learn how to take a joke. One rule I have is that if people are making fun of you and they're talking to you, that means they like you, because the opposite is true. If they don't talk to you, that means they don't like you. So learn how to take a joke, learn how to give a joke, learn how to roll with the punches. You gotta remember, even though at this point it's a grind, these are gonna be some of the best times of your life, and you're not even gonna know it at that time, but they are. And so you just gotta enjoy it. Just be a good hang, be cool, be a good human, and man, you're just gonna have the best time ever. Me personally, the projects and the people I choose to work with these days, being a good hang is so high in the priority of what I look for and for the projects that I choose. If you are just starting your guitar gigging journey, I wish you the best. I hope you find some value in the advice that I'm giving you, and I hope this advice is one of those advice where it might not make any sense right now, but later on when you're actually doing the thing, you'll think about this video and you'll be like, oh, okay, that's what he was talking about. Like I said throughout this entire video, my gigging days were some of the best of my entire life, and I hope you have the same experience for yours. That's it. That's all I got. If you made it to the end of the video, I appreciate you so much. Please consider liking and subscribing. Hit that bell for notifications. It really does help the channel grow so I can do more videos like this. Another video that you might like will be popping up any second now. Thank you again. Pick up that guitar and let's go.